Today, I want to share with you one of my favorite practices that I discovered, I guess, earlier this year. Every morning, I've been starting it with two things. The first is I do a round of gratitudes. So I focus my mind on the things that I'm really grateful for in that particular moment. And when I do that, I actually take the time to really feel into that gratitude sort of locate in my body, and I really savor it like I'm sipping a cup of tea. And actually, in the mornings, I usually make myself a cup of tea. I usually make myself a cup of tea and um, light a candle as well too. So that's the first thing I do is sort of list out the things that I'm truly grateful for in that moment. And it can be some days as simple as my breath that I can breathe out of both nostrils because over the winter I could only really breathe out of one on good days. So being able to have both seemed like a luxury at some point. The second part of the practice has been a real game changer for me because um, for whatever reason, my mind has always articulated things that I want in the negative. So things that I wanted to avoid. So for example, I don't want as much stress. I don't want to have to meet so many challenges. And so my mind was always fixated on really the negative. I mean, that was what was going on in my mind. And, perhaps it didn't look like that on the outside, but internally it was. There's a real hypervigilant part, really scanning for danger in the environment. So, this practice I learned from a really wonderful hypnotherapist here in London, who, I had heard of a number of years ago when my husband worked with her to quit smoking. He only had one session with her, and quit from there, which was incredible to hear about. So I decided I would work with her a bit. And this is something that she taught me to do, which is basically to frame my day by sort of like the way that I think about it is like painting the picture of the day that I want to step into. So what that means for me is really listing out the things that I want to see happen during the day. Like I sort of check in with myself and see where am I at today? Am I a five or a six, or, do I want to shift to, a six or a seven? Like how am I feeling? And so if I want to shift to, let's say, a six or seven, what would be in this day that would help me sort of feel like it's a 6 or 7 day today. I feel like I'm making some progress. So I'll start listing out some things that I wish to have during that day. And some of these things are stuff I actually have control over. So whatever's on my to-do list, not just, a list of to-dos because that can feel a bit stressful, but just what would be really fun to, have done and be able to check off. And then other things that I list on there are things that I might not have so much control over. So sort of, I can reach out to potential clients, but I might imagine, new clients signing up in the morning and sort of new bookings. And so that's something I have some control over. And then there are things that I actually have no control over, but I would be delighted to have, such as, magic that falls under the category of magic miracles and wonderful surprises. Magic and miracles being really anything that shows up in the day that I, find are moments of synchronicity. Um, Actually, I started a few years ago to make a list of magical moments in my life so that I can just remember that they happen. These beautiful synchronous moments of maybe thinking of someone and having them call, in that next moment, or I don't know, just getting an email with some advice that I, actually really needed. Maybe it came through one of those quotes of the day and it sort of inspired me in a particular way. So magic and miracles like that, and then surprises is something new that my business partner Jeff Helsler has started me on. So he asks for surprises every day. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know that I want surprises because I always had associated them to negative things. But now I've decided that actually I can do surprises, and often they're really delightful and wonderful. So one of them is something quite simple, like I love plants, and I got a potted plant for my mother-in-law, and they're just started growing these two little mushrooms under the leaves. And it was just like a little cute surprise to tuck under the leaves and see these two little growths there and just enjoying their presence over the next few days. So those are, that's another list of things that I might put down. So, magic and miracles and surprises, which I don't have any control over. And so something happens when I start listing these in the positive, thinking about things that I want more of. And so instead of less stress, more ease, sort of instead of less challenges, potentially more flow. Something really interesting happens because I find that somehow my brain works it out to create this in my day without actually putting it necessarily in my agenda or planning it out as such. Just setting that intention and that openness really has shifted things for me. And I think it's been particularly important right now because there are a lot of things when you open up the news can be really stress inducing. And so just this framing can really help. So I did a little bit of research to understand why it is this practice has been so magical for me. And I found three things that my AI assistant has given me. The first thing is what we focus on grows quite literally. So there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system that filters in millions of inputs per day and actually starts searching for what you believe is important. So when you set this out in the day, it'll start searching for evidence of ease, for example, or opportunities to create more of it. So it sort of is a way to have us predisposed to looking for really great things. And I think a gratitude practice is develops that aspect of ourselves too. The second is that language rewires the nervous system. So just the words we use. So if you just drop in and sort of feel your body when you say the word grace or flow. I know for me, I feel like this subtle energy that moves. Even the word delight, sort of like a light tingling, and I can't help but smile when I say that word. It actually is something that shifts our biochemical response. So our heart rate slows down, our muscles relax. Sort of we shift from the survival mode in the sympathetic nervous system to the creative and response state of the parasympathetic nervous system. So just changing our words to ones that are more positive and affirming can really help our physical body as well too. And then finally, this is something that athletes do. So they imagine sort of the future scenario they want to see. They might imagine, making the goal or making the shot. I always think of basketball for some reason. I'm like quite small, and so I'm not really sure why that comes as an image for me. But it lights up the part of the brain that makes us feel like it's actually happening. And so even though these things haven't happened yet, it sort of gives us sort of the mental benefit of it. And so and also a little bit of a rehearsal. So if you have something on your list that you've been procrastinating and it feels a bit tough, actually just naming it and say, oh, wouldn't it be great for me to get that done today and just off my plate of things to do. And so there's mental rehearsal that happens within us and our brains that actually goes to achieve that. And so it isn't sort of just a theoretical practice, but there's actually a neurological synapses that are getting fired when this is happening. So I'm just going to go over those three reasons again on a neuroscience basis. The first is that what we focus on literally grows through our reticular activating system. What we focus on is actually what we notice in the day and what gets created because of the way that our brains are wired. The second is that the language we use, so using positive language rewires our nervous system and allows our bodies to feel better. And then the third is that imagination is like rehearsing the future. So it's not fantasy, but it's actually creating it and being a part of creating the life that you're looking for. So I hope that you find this helpful. It doesn't have to be a long practice. You can say maybe list out 3 gratitudes and just maybe take a minute or two and really paint the picture that you want to walk into for the day. The reason that I call it, painting the picture is because it's actually not possible to paint the negative. So we use positive, affirming words because, we can sort of imagine what more ease would look like. But, how do you paint less stress necessarily? I also want to put a note in here because one of my amazing clients asked, well, we never want to do just toxic positivity. And it's really important if, anyone who has worked with me will know that it's really important to hold what we have going on in our lives and not, push it away whatsoever. So whatever is happening in life can be there and we can have this as a resource beside it. And so it's not either or, but it's allowing sort of the tough or challenging emotions to be alongside a felt sense of gratitude and potentially an optimism and inspiration that comes with, painting the picture of the day that you want to walk into. Um, if you guys have any other questions, then feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I'll leave it here and send this off. Thanks so much for listening.